friends to join us here live. But we're going to have a great conversation today. It is hard to accept the fact, at least for me, that we are still having to talk about COVID. This time last year, I was really hopeful that this would be a distant memory, but it is something that's still going on and something that we've seen within our handlers. There has just been a struggle. Our animals have gotten out of practice. We all are leaving the home less. But as we start to reemerge a little bit, seeing some concerning behaviors or just some behaviors we need to work through in our animals. So that is why we are joined today by two brilliant trainers who are going to help us work through some of those issues. So as you log on, let us know you're here. You can say hi, where you're from, maybe the name of your pet. I see we have Jamie from Reno. So thank you for joining us. And also keep in mind that as we talk today, this can be a conversation, and any questions that you have, any strange behaviors that you've seen in your animals, put them into the chat. We're here for you and we can help address those. So I will keep my eyes out. Going to move right into introducing our guest, and then we'll let them to start talking. They're the ones I know you want to hear from. But first, I'm going to introduce Caren Lloyd. Training dogs is just one of the many ways that Caren has found to fill her world with animals. She has a bachelor's degree in environmental communication, education, and interpretation, and she's also a certified professional dog trainer. She fosters dogs, rescues dogs, offers board and training services, and is a certified professional groomer. She's actually groomed many of my dogs who no one else could groom because they were not very friendly, so she can attest. Rest in peace, Leonard. In her in her 20 plus years of this work, she's trained over 200 species, including a variety of birds, both birds of prey as well as parrots, pigs, porcupines, and rats. Caren has a soft spot, though, for the pups that struggle to adjust to our busy world. So remember that today as you have questions about your animals and them readjusting to the world. Caren can be here to help you with that. We're also joined by Dr. Gina Fisher. She's an adjunct professor at multiple colleges teaching psychology and animal behavior courses, and she's dedicated her career and education to animal training, behavior, and welfare. She has over 25 years of experience in the behavioral science and zoological field, working with a variety of species while specializing in, get this, otter care. So we have all different kinds of species that we could talk about today. I know we don't have any therapy otters, though, in our program, but we can still
We should
learn.
fix that.
Yeah. Dr. Fisher has been a professional dog trainer since 2010 and teaches obedience, socialization, and therapy dogs classes. She's also been a Pet Partners therapy dog evaluator and a registered team since 2014. And her philosophy focuses on relation-centered training. She's a fear-free certified professional trainer. So as you can see, tons of expertise today. I just want to start out by inviting you each to take a turn talking to us about some of the biggest challenges that you've noticed in your clients' behaviors, your animal clients' behaviors, given the pandemic. So whoever'd like to get started.
Please, Caren.
Let's see. So I think one of the biggest challenges that I have found, and one of the areas that I tend to focus on a lot when I'm working with my clients, is opening up the lines of communication between humans and dogs. Because what I find is that we tend to humanize a lot of behaviors and emotions with our dogs. And what we're not realizing is that as primates, we process situations very differently than canines do. And so when we put that perspective on it, then we are interpreting different behaviors from them as certain things. And then also our intentions when we are doing things, interacting with our dogs, we don't recognize that they're receiving it differently than we're intending it. And so a lot of what I do is just trying to demystify that, kind of translating between, human and canine. Because once both sides start to understand each other better, then it's like, oh, I get it now, and so then they can move forward working together rather than kind of at cross purposes because, there's just perpetual miscommunication.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think even of all the times I've heard people say, and maybe sometimes this is true, but the big fear after the pandemic was, I'm going to leave my house and my dog's going to be really lonely. And so we're kind of putting our own assumptions on the animal's behavior, and that's not always the case. And
Mhm.
the reason we're seeing some of the behaviors. So that makes sense. What about you, Gina? What are some of the issues you've noted in clients ever since the changes in lifestyle with the pandemic?
Sure. I mean, all of us, we've worked together, and we actually went through this where we worked with clients before the pandemic, during, and we're still during, right? So we're still there. And the thing that I noticed the most was the loneliness in people and the fear in them. They don't know what to do. They don't even know how to come over to you, or how do I approach you? And I think we all know that no matter how we act, that information goes straight from the leash to the dog. And that's where I see till to this until this day is I'm working with clients that are a little scared. Like, they don't, I think they want to be close to us. They want to go back to greetings and coming close with the dogs, but they're like, what are we allowed to do? And you know what, who knows? So I try to say, like, get to know these clients and feel what, what's comfortable for them. And overall, that experience is whatever you're feeling, and you get back out in the world, your dog's going to feel the same. So I think we're going to talk a lot about how do we get past that? How do we feel better about it and get our dogs to get comfortable? Because they're looking to us. We're it to them. Like,
Yeah,
we're the information. We're the teacher.
absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, how have you? We'll talk about some of the issues specific to therapy animals that we've seen in our online communities and things like that. But based on what you've described, how have you helped your clients so far in working through behavioral issues that have presented themselves since the pandemic?
I go to where's your happy place? Where's your safe place? Some people say, I like to go to Home Depot. Sure, if that's it. Mine is be around friends and family that I'm just taking that first step out there for my dog to get comfortable around groups of people again. There's a lot that's going on that I think we were so fast forward and everything we were doing, and we were doing awesome, and then all of a sudden the shutdown, and now we have to go back to it. And I hear these questions and I see them like, well, what do I do about this? But some people aren't going to let you in to practice that. So you have to be so creative, your dogs back into the world and feel comfortable. So my biggest suggestion, and what I did with my own dog, is I just went back to dog training for her, not just me as a dog trainer, but I took her to classes to get right back into it, to be around other people and dogs and start experiencing. And maybe I'm just very, I see the world so half full, right? But so many people are so great when I'm like, do you mind if we practice this? Or can we try to like take an alarm system or something and sound off, like just so they can hear like a different sound. And I've never found a trainer that they're like, yeah, let's do it. So talk to your trainers. If you're going back to dog training, talk to your trainers about how they can help, because they are more than happy to help. They should be. And if they're not, then you might not be with the right one, but they should definitely be happy to help you do some descense work.
What about you, Caren?
Um, Actually, what you were saying there, Gina, that's something that I do recommend for a lot of my students is, as we are starting to get back into, travel and being around each other and stuff. I'm like, I I talk about the bubble a lot. As I work with reactive dogs predominantly, there's a lot of um, sometimes it's frustration, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's insecurity, which those are a little bit different. It's there are a lot that some of it's just social awkwardness. I tell them, like, think middle school dance. Like, the energy just kind of spills over. You're like, ah, and so as we do that, think about the bubble. Be mindful of your dog's bubble. How close can they get to something before it's an issue? And so with that in mind, take them to different places, but places where you can kind of dictate that. I love Home Depot for this, because what I've been telling people, I was like, take them to see the Halloween decorations that are there, the animatronic Santas, there's forklifts beeping, there's all kinds of things. Normalize, different experiences, but do so at a safe distance. So if you're kind of just posted up outside of Home Depot, there's a lot of people in and out. You might even see dogs going in and out, but you see the activity, but you can look at your dog. And this is a big thing too. observe their body language. Learn to read your dog's body language so that you can see, okay, you're not benefiting from this, or maybe you're curious, or maybe you're shutting down. What is it? And so again, it's about that communication between I talk about, you spoke about the leash. I tell my students that's a USB cord, because that information travels right down there, and right to your dog, and so when you're looking at your dog, and in these different situations, how are they responding to it? Today they did okay, but the day before they weren't receiving it so well. But then you just kind of start working your way back into it where they can see this stuff, but not necessarily dropping them right into the middle of it to where, they're overwhelmed. And so then you just kind of gradually work your way back into this, and being around people and being around, strange things that they haven't seen, or some of these dogs have never seen it, because they were born during this last year and a half. And so, they might have any exposure to any of that stuff. And so you're that person to take them out there and start exposing them to it and teaching them that this is not anything that you have to fear.
Yep. Those pandemic puppies. We're going to talk about that. I'm making a note so I go back, because that's what an interesting time to be raising a dog. But I love what you're saying too about not overwhelming an animal right now, and that bubble. I'm lucky to have trained with both Gina and Caren before. We were all dog trainers working together at the same company, and to be able to see this in practice, that line of getting an animal close to what is potentially overstimulating, but not pushing it so far that we're losing it, and having these positive steps. I see even some comments coming in. LJ says, my dog is not as friendly and outgoing as she was pre-pandemic, which is common. So we're going to talk some about that now. Have many dogs, as you know. So I would say my problem with my dogs is they're going one of two ways. Some of my dogs are completely overstimulated by people right now. They want to kiss them, hug them. I'm using some examples here of maybe overhumanizing their behaviors, but they would like to get very close to people now, and so I need your help, Gina and Caren. What would you suggest for me and for all the other people like me who are having this problem?
I'll take one way, and then Karen's like, great, I'll take the other, whichever way you don't. But I'm like, I'm going to go with the dogs that I'm experiencing this. So I have a lovely lab, the sweetest, and she is outgoing. And now I'm trying to get her back. And one of the things that I'm struggling the most with some of you may or may not, I get very jealous with people who are saying, I have places to go and visit. And I'm like, I just don't. I'm trying my best to get back out there. And I'm going to tell you, all these wonderful people want us there too. But there's these guidelines and these new things that we're dealing with that I've been stood up a lot. It's okay. I get it. I mean, things are happening. And so it's frustrating. I want to get back out. I want to get her back out. And she is very outgoing. And yet I tried it. I went, my first event in a very long time was with, it was outdoors with a bunch of Boy Scouts. And I remember almost forgetting even what I have to say or what I have to do, because it's, oh my gosh, it's almost been a year for me. And what I love about people who want to do this is they're very understanding. And that line of communication, I said, I don't know if she's really going to be that friendly or outgoing, but she's cute if you want to look at her. Like, I always say, this may not go well and I'm going to leave. And I hate to do that, but she comes first. And that's the thing that we always have to remember is we are their advocate. That's all they know. So I try to introduce her to these activities. And if it doesn't work, I give them the disclaimer, like maybe next time or whatever. And again, I've never had any issues. So what I'm trying to do with her now, because she's friendly and she wants to hug and kiss and be near other people, is take your time, do it very slowly. They're going to 100%, they are going to read off of your body language. So I definitely make it a training session. This is not a free for all, like, woo, we're at, grandpa and grandpa's, get crazy. Like, I do the training, which you've learned. If you haven't, you can always practice it at home too. The basic obedience skills. Let them know we're on a job right now until they start getting comfortable again, that you can trust that they are giving you the right body signals, that you're understanding of, oh, they might actually not be comfortable. So those over friendly dogs that I know maybe Caren will go into the shy ones since I took this one, was that I still take my time. I still take my time because they're already showing you. Like, I just feel like now we're going back to middle school, where maybe there's like the dance where the girl's like, let's dance. And they're like, whoa. So let's take some time, get to know your partner, and don't rush into it. I try to do something once a week with her, and it may just even be visiting family members. So
Mhm. Play it cool. I get it. Okay. So, Caren, anything you would like to add to the over-friendly dogs? And obviously, I know you have a lot of
yeah,
specialty in dealing with fearful
yeah.
dogs as well. So, talk to us about either sides of those reactions.
Well, there's a lot of overlap,
Mhm.
because with either dog, you're still trying to assess how are they feeling about the situation, and then moving closer to it based on their responses. And so with a shy dog, a lot of times, this kind of going back to like the Home Depot example, exposing them to different things but not putting them into these situations where they shut down, but then you could start decreasing the size of that bubble. You could start working them closer and closer. I tell them, take it to the edge of where they're okay, and let them see, hey, that wasn't so bad. Nothing really bad happened to me when that happened there, or maybe even something good happened to me in that situation. And then something that I don't see enough of, that, when I'm teaching classes and things like that, or even working with one-on-one clients, is I don't hear you praising your dog enough. I don't hear you rewarding them enough, rewarding confident behavior. So when they try to shake it off and they're just like, whew, okay, that was big, but I did it. Yes, you did. Good job. I see more of the consolation. You're okay. It's okay. But you notice when I say that, my face twists up, and your dog is reading every bit of that. And so when they're looking at you and interpreting your reaction to a situation, they're cueing off of like, are we okay here? Do I
Mhm.
trust you in this situation? And there's a lot of different things that you could do with your dog before you even start to expose them to these situations, just to help teach them that you are that person that they can trust. I know that this situation scares you, so we're going to stay right over here. And as long as, you're here with me, we're good. And then as need be, we can get a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And it's same thing with the overexcited dogs, because I have been seeing a lot more dogs that are frustrated because they can't get to, whatever. How come every time we come out here, I never get to play with that other dog? You never let me do anything, And so, but they have to understand, like, yes, you can, but there's a proper way to go about that. And so, but if you look to me, I've got you in this situation. I have your best interests at heart. You can get what you want. However, there's a proper way to go about that, and we could work our way into that. If you just give me, like that sit focus or whatever it is that you want that default behavior to be, I tend to default to a sit focus, a sit wait focus, but then if we do that, then we can go over there, and
Yep.
this also helps a lot with the shy dogs, because in this situation, like say you've worked on introducing them to inanimate objects all around you and stuff like that in a safe setting, where, around the house and stuff like that, to where nothing bad ever happened to them, then you start branching that out. If they learn that, hey, you've never led me astray, then when you come up to meeting somebody new or taking them and they see the animatronic Santa at Home Depot, the same way you've introduced them to things at home and in places that they know and trust, you can introduce them to that. And at the same time, give them the option of, I'm not ready for that yet. So you kind of give them that little bit of space. You go through, with the same command, and it just the same cue that you give them. And if they're just like, you know what? No, I'm not there yet. You know what? That's okay. That is quite all right. You tried it, you kind of looked into it, but now we're just going to turn and we're going to head out of that, because I'm your person. I have your best interests at heart. And so I'm not going to force you into this situation. Maybe tomorrow you'll feel a little bit more confident there, and, and then it'll be all right. We can try again, and that's okay.
Yeah. that slow pace is so important to
Mhm.
not just dive back in. I know for so many therapy animal handlers, we
Mhm.
want to dive back in when we have the opportunity because we miss it. But, we'll get the most out of our relationship with our animals and out of what we're going to do in the future by taking those steps slowly. And I don't know about you all, but I always feel a little bit too seen and heard when I talk to Caren and Gina about my dog problems, because it really resonated, Caren, when you said that how we tend to also give our animals more attention when they're either doing something that we don't want, or when we're telling them, oh, it's okay, rather than when we're waiting to praise them when they've done a good job. So yeah, I've got some notes for myself even that I need to remember when I'm practicing moving forward. um, so we talked a little bit about this, but any other notes on, sometimes it's not people. Now it's like even going into hearing a PA system or an automatic door or even car rides are really overstimulating. So either of you have suggestions on kind of slowly emerging into those fun stimulations?
YouTube.
I usually do dry runs. Sometimes for myself, I'll just go and check out the situation so that I know if you know your dog well. If not, you kind of know what might trigger them to make them nervous or excitable. So I'll visit first. I visit the person first, and I don't know, I do a lot of communications of what are you looking for, and know that if this doesn't go well, or I think my dog is not okay, that we're going to go ahead and leave. And again, no one has ever said anything. So I do dry runs with myself, and then I always have them meet her and see what they think. Because usually people, and I'm sure you all have worked with enough directors, activity center directors or something, they know what they kind of want and they're asking for, and are you the right fit? And right now I'm really paying very close attention, not to just do an activity because I want to do it, because I know I'm excited to get back, but what is best for my dog. So one of the things, if they will allow you to, is be able to do those dry runs and see if you can just it's nice to do, again, we're going to do slow pace approximation. Maybe just bring your dog to that space so they get comfortable with it for 15 or 20 minutes. So when they come back, that part's already, it's not that exciting anymore. So now they can actually focus on the task of maybe meeting new people. So if they allow you to, I love dry runs. And if not, I think the best thing that you can do is expose them to different scenarios. So you try your Home Depot. I'm at Tractor Supply now, so or Lowe's. I have found, and maybe you all have too, in your community, there's a lot of places that will allow your dogs to come in, but it's not like really said. Like no one says anything, but it's this nice, person in their own little store that are like, I'd love to see your dog. So try there. I'm making you all be friends with everyone, but kind of get out in your community and see, and change it up a little bit so that you can see your dog's behavior. Get them out there a little bit.
Did you know that you could take your dogs to Nordstrom?
Did
No.
not know that.
I have a client who sent me a picture of her two Great Danes at Nordstrom.
Wow,
I was like,
that's a lot of dog to take
that's a
to a
lot of dog
department
in a
store.
department store.
Mhm.
Okay.
So see,
But no,
you never know.
I was very serious when I was saying YouTube because it's a good way, they have a lot of different sounds, I know some people probably know about like babies crying, you can actually look up babies crying for dog training, and so there's other sounds that's out there too. There you go. There you go.
Another
So
note?
that and it's a more realistic sound, it's not just like, getting a doll or something like that, but there are realistic sounds that you can play, just to kind of see how your dog responds to that, and then if you find that they are kind of noise shy and things like that, that's a way that you could start, exposing them to that without necessarily taking them somewhere where like, well, if they bolt or if they, like lunge at somebody or something along those lines, that might be much. Now, a lot of this is contingent on you knowing your dog and knowing, how much can they handle, will they let me know, am I able to tell when they are done, when they've had enough, and so giving them that exposure in an environment that they do already feel safe and secure, you could start introducing those things. And then, maybe even stepping outside. A lot of the training that I do, with almost 100% of my clients, probably 100% of my clients, I have foundational work that I give them, and it's stuff that, whether it's puppies, whether it's reactive dogs, whether it's wherever on the spectrum that they are. Here are these things that I want you to start at home. I know a lot of people are expecting me to show up with, treats and all kinds of tools and things like that to use on their dog. I'm like, no, this is about a relationship. And so I want you to start with these tools at home. As we figure out, how they respond to that, then we will tweak as necessary, but I want you and your dog to have this relationship where they know that you are there for them, that they can trust you in these situations. And so start with this stuff, so this should be your safe space. And so once you start introducing things to them, it might be different. That first time they might be like, wait, what? But then you bring them back in, and you go through and do whatever exercises it is. And there's certain, there's ones, that you can do to help with this. But as long as they are understanding that this is something non-threatening in this setting, dogs don't generalize very well. So you teach them. That's why we start, working with in this room of the house, and then we move to this room, and I have them go by the front door, then open the front door, then go right outside the front door, so that you start extending that home range. And so you can do that with sounds as well, so a PA system going off, the beeping, like the forklift that I mentioned, automatic doors, that's going to be something a little bit different. The sound might be, but even the garage door. I do a lot of training with my board and trains in my garage. It's my gym now, but that's not neither here nor there. But, but a lot of times if I'm going to go out to, into the front to do like some leash work and stuff, once I do the training inside, I open up the garage door and they're just like, whoa, what is that? And it's just like, we're going to stand, we're going to watch it happen. I could have put them inside, but why? Let me, you're in a safe space here. This is something that's okay, learn a new thing. And so the more you can expose them to in a safe environment, the easier it will be when you get into a less predictable environment for them to be able to adjust. And it's not going to be an ordeal for them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I see Sandy joining us, 100% agree, and also some more places where you can take your animals dog friendly. Thank you, Sandy.
Nice.
And talking about comments, any questions you guys have, remember, please ask them. That's what we're here for, is for your questions. No question, no such thing as a dumb question. And if there is, I promise you, I've asked Gina and Caren myself before, so they won't have a facial response to what you ask. So we talked a little bit about pandemic pups, and just want to touch on that. So I know a lot of our therapy animal teams we talked about the changes that they have, but a lot of people have gotten new animals who they would like to become therapy animals, but haven't had the same opportunities to get them, socialized in the world. So any suggestions for if you're taking in a young or new animal, what you can do, given the context now?
You're saying if you have a new puppy at this time and you want to go maybe into therapy dog work with.
Yeah. How do you start practicing?
Look how I keep going back to, because it's like my foundation is dog training. I love it, but if you can get in,
That's the right answer, though.
Yeah, see, good, Caren. But I've even gone back to dog training, and here I am as a dog trainer who teaches classes, but I wanted to enroll my dog as their advocate, as their teacher, to go back into it. So I think that's the best way, because you have people that are very similar to you who want good things for their dog. But again, what I learn a lot and what I've been taught and what I teach is that meetup. When someone comes over to you or another dog approaches you, a lot of times we're visiting with other people and dogs. We have to make sure that socialization goes well. So my big suggestion is, if you can and you have somewhere to go, get back into a dog training class. It could be as simple as just going back to basic obedience, which is fine. You don't have to get crazy to some trick class or scent work, whatever, just going back to basic obedience. And what Caren mentions a lot, which is great, is how to do it at home. Because some of us may not know what to do at home. You're like, that's like me in any exercise routine. I have to go to the gym because it ain't happening. Sorry, Caren, I don't have anything in my garage.
Okay.
So I need someone to stare at me and tell me what to do. Then you can bring it home. But I do get a lot, like my dog, we all know our dogs act very differently at home than when they do when they're out. So if you can get back involved in any sort of dog training classes, that would be my biggest suggestion, especially with these young pups coming into our world. And I think what it comes to is we're projecting a lot onto them. I think we don't feel great. And it stinks. It does. We don't feel great about what's going on. And maybe we're a little hesitant too. You know, do I hug you? Do I give you a handshake? Do I high five? Okay, let's just do a fist bump. Be like, we don't even know what to do yet. So they're learning from us. So I think in dog training classes, I feel like there is now a norm that we can be closer together. Where maybe people are wearing masks or they are staying 6 feet, depending. But if you are in a class where they're not really allowing too much closeness, I would say use your families and, and your friends to kind of get that back involved.
I I fully agree with what you're saying. I think that's going to be the best method, just because there's more direct correlation there, like, because these are the things that you need to learn. And once you've gotten past those first couple of classes, then you start to slough off some of those, oh my gosh, my dog is that dog, like any kind of embarrassment or shyness and stuff like that. You start to get more comfortable with the people who are in your class. And so your dog is seeing that as well, and so that you're able. What I talk about a lot with reactive training, I talk about how very repetitive it can be, because your dog has rehearsed negative behaviors, countless times. And now we're trying to replace those behaviors. We're trying to kind of drown those out. And so the more positive interactions and experiences that you can create for your dog, the better that's going to be, because if they know that every time I see a dog, and a person, I just lose my entire mind, because my mom, she pulls up on the leash, and she turns and walks away, and, she always moves away, whatever. Then now we have to teach them, like, that is what we were doing because we had to, because, we're not supposed to be that close to people, and I didn't have my mask because I didn't think I was going to be that close to people, but now that's not as much the case, and so if we're moving in and around each other, maybe in a loose leash walking class or something like that, where we're not all staying right in our little lanes or whatever, but we're actually walking around and, we're able to meet, we're still keeping distance, but we're still able to meet, then my dog is going to learn that's not what the thing was. Like, that's the, I don't have to do this because apparently, well, they're not doing that. And everybody else seems to be okay here. And mom seems much better today on leash than she was, last week. So yeah, I think I'll keep going with this, So you're trying to rewrite the narrative for them, basically. They've learned it one way. And for the dogs that were born into this, where they're, people have half a face, which is really difficult for a dog. Like, I don't think people understand how difficult that is for a dog, because, it's kind of like having a doodle, where so many of their expressions and physical communications are blocked by hair. You can't necessarily see their eyes. If they have a big fuzzy face, you can't see if their lips are doing anything. You can't fully tell if they're gripping their mouth tight. Dogs with dock tails, you can't tell if they're holding it high or low or wagging fast or slow, And so now you throw into all of that. Now people are hiding their faces, and so there's a lot of information that our dogs are not able to perceive from us, and so taking them into these situations where, you start increasing your pandemic bubble. This is a different bubble than the one I was talking about before, but, I'm around these people on a regular basis, so I can practice here. My dog can learn to be around these people without without all the stigma and all of the tension that there normally is. I know for me, I'm still not comfortable being out and about. There's like 2 places that I go that I don't wear a mask. Actually, I think it's just one. I think it's really just the one, but other than that, I know that my dogs aren't in situations now where it's just free and open and everything like that, because I'm not that comfortable. So just reintroducing them and letting them see, like, okay, so I know what the world looked like before, but now, this is different. And because we don't know when this will be over,
Mhm.
We have to be able to flex with whatever it looks like,
Yeah.
whether it is socially distant or physically distant, or masks or whatever. They need to learn how to do like that whole spectrum. And so, dog training has gotten harder for that. There is
Mhm.
more now that we never even expected. 2 years ago, this was not a thing, but
Right.
now it's front and center, of teaching our dogs. And so, the game just got more complicated,
Mhm.
to be perfectly honest. But
Yeah. And it's just such a great place to practice that new norm, or at least even to practice the norm that we're hoping to achieve, where we don't have to worry about, distance as much. I see some notes coming in too from people who are joining us. I love this story. We went to Walmart when they had a puppy, and when he first heard a baby cry, he kept looking at me and looking for the sound. It's cute. So yes, and a good example of introducing to new noises. And Vicky, I see a very experienced handler, a great example in the comments box, talking about how this working with who will be a seventh therapy dog, but still going back to obedience training next month. So speaks to the importance. Any questions coming in? I'm gonna monitor, but I have two more questions that I have prepared. One, we've talked a lot about dog trainers and about how that can be a really important next step for anyone who is trying to get started or struggling to reintegrate. What do you look for in a dog trainer?
I
Caren?
definitely recommend somebody who reflects you but challenges you. Um, because if you are the type to coddle, you know, and you're not really ready to step outside of that, if you get a trainer who also coddles, you're not going to get anywhere, but you also don't want to meet up with a trainer who, just personally affronts everything that you stand for. So Gina is fear free. I have not gotten my certification there, and I know that our training styles are probably a little bit different, but depending on who we are working with, that might actually be a better situation. And I let people know, for as many trainers as you encounter, you're going to get that many slightly different variations, but does the root of what they're saying resonate with you? I do challenge my students a lot. Like I said, a lot of what I do is kind of open up those lines of communication. So I try to help them to see, like, from the dog's perspective, this is what this action does, this is what this means, but I also am not trying to make them feel like, are you an idiot, like, do you not know, and so, because that doesn't help anything. And so, finding somebody who is like, oh, okay, you're helping me to see something a little bit differently. I didn't appreciate that perspective before, but doing so in such a way that doesn't go against, what they're saying, so if they're coming out the gate with, something, heavy handed or whatever, you might be like, I'm not sure I can do that, but then again, but why did they, like, what was it about that? Were they able to explain that to you? Did any of that make sense? Or did they just say, here's what we're going to do, boom, and that's it. This is what your dog has to have, when I'm teaching, I explain to my students just right on the front of it. I said, when I look at dog training, I look at it in three different tiers. I look at it in terms of dog, then I look at it in terms of, German shepherds, and then I look at it in terms of Milo, because it breaks down. There are things that are going to be universal, to dogs in general, and then, but there's things that are going to be breed specific. Then there's things that are specific to your dog. Does the trainer that you're working with recognize that, or are they kind of one size fits all? This is how we have to do this, and that's that. And if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, well, your dog is going to be broken forever. Okay, or is there flexibility in there? I let my students know as well, anything that I'm telling you, it is a recommendation or a suggestion. I'm not going to come in your house and tell you what to do. And Gina, that actually is something that I include now because of you, because you were talking about that. Yes, ma'am. Because you were talking about that, because like, I don't do dogs on furniture, but I know that you do. And you were saying, like, I don't want, like you were just describing, like, how important that is to you. And I was like, and I recognize that for other people. And so I tell them that, there's a reason, behind this. However, I'm not going to tell you not to do, this with your dog. It may slow down where we're going because of XYZ issue, but, if that's the case, then we just have a little bit of a longer road to go, but I can flex with that. I'm still going to be here. I'm still willing to help and answer any of your questions.
Yeah.
I love that. It different perspectives on training. There's so many different options. It's not one size fits all. But you should feel seen and heard and challenged by your trainer. But within those contexts. What about you, Gina? What do you look for
I
in
don't
training?
like the word gut instincts because I don't like to talk about guts. So I go my inner guide, but go with your inner guide, everybody. There's so many times like I've been in animal training for 25 years and I have not agreed with everyone in my mind. I very much, and I try to talk through it, but you're not going to always go there where both of you, and that's okay. And it's also okay to hear what they have to say and understand it. There's a lot of things I would never do with my dogs, and I watch people do with theirs. It may work, it may not be for me, but I'm really trying to be open-minded. However, what I loved about working with a variety of trainers is you kind of get to see what fits best for you. And I still think it's okay to work with a trainer that you may not really agree with, but they do still have good ideas on things that maybe this other trainer wouldn't have thought of. So the way that I do it is my inner guide. Like if I'm not feeling good about what they're saying, it's not really for me. It's not a big deal. I just may move on and work with a different trainer or go somewhere else. I definitely have a very strong opinion of my training philosophy. So I think that it is okay to work with a variety of trainers. It is okay to say, if you said to me, that's not actually how I do it and I don't want to, I wouldn't look at you go, no, you have to do it. You're in my class. I listen to them and I work with them. And you have to, if they're not respecting you, then that's not probably worth you going to that trainer. Yeah. So they need to respect you and your space and what you're comfortable with. And I would say, I think the best thing, and you all know this, is knowledge. I try to read as much as possible about dog training. And there are some things that you go, no, that is not me. But I've learned from that going, cool, I have an opinion on that too. So best thing I could tell you all, of course, we believe in positive reinforcement, and that is our go-to. But we know we're not always saying, that's great, that's wonderful, this is wonderful, yay. There are things they're not doing that we have to help them. There are students. That's how I look at myself, is I'm a teacher. They're my little student. And they're like, what do you need me to do now, human? So one thing I want to tell you all, if you get a chance, and I'm sure you're trying, is play with your dogs. Have some fun with them too, because we keep talking about, which is great. Basic obedience is so important, but I use play a lot as some fun things to do. Some of the things we used to do as trainers, and I still do it today, I've taken it with me, is we'll say, in my air quotes that I hate doing, agility courses, but it's like the confidence courses. I still do it today. And I'm telling you, I've never seen dogs have more fun doing the strangest, going up over little ladders or in through tunnels, and you just have fun with them. Then you stop. Okay, let's do basic obedience. Let's go back to it. So if you're having any sort of troubles right now with your dog, just building your relationship, maybe you're down a little bit about what's going on and you're like, I don't even know what to do with them. Have fun, play with them, do the strangest types of games and just have some fun. And you'll start building that relationship back up again.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can't always just be asking them to perform for us, right?
That's not fair.
And so yes, we want to always look for trainers, especially with therapy animal work, always avoiding any kind of aversive training, communication with our animals and encourage them to be able to communicate with us. But there is not one right way to do it. I see a question came in about recommendations for low cost basic obedience training. We will put in the chat too. There's a lot of great websites out there too. It doesn't have to be you going to a trainer. There are Fear Free has some great resources we'll put in. Victoria Stillwell is a trainer who I like to really follow, who has great videos. If you go to YouTube and you're having a problem, I see that little Sebastian here looks like he's marking in the home. So if you search marking Victoria Stillwell on YouTube, I think you'll find a video to help you. So there's some great resources out there. I have one more question for each of you. And so we've talked about a lot today, but what do you think the most important thing that we can do to support our animals, no matter what they're presenting to the world right now? What is the key, in your expert opinion, on the most important thing we can do with our animals? Caren, you want to start?
Pay attention to them. Not in the sense of they are staring at you because you're working at home and so they're under your foot all the time or anything like that. Pay attention to them and I hate to use another buzzword, but balance. There's balance, you know. Um, there are things, you know, like I had somebody tell me that their breeder told them that they have to be there when the dog woke up from a nap. Um, no,
Yeah.
because that's not healthy. You know, that's going to turn into a problem later. So don't be afraid to impose some boundaries and, you know, have discipline in your household, you know, with your dogs. But on the same, you know, well, on the flip side of that, throw all that to the wind and just get on the floor and play with them.
Mhm.
You know, let them understand that there's a range of things that's there, that it's not all of one, or there's, it doesn't, it's not a free for all over here or military command over here. Because even military dogs get to play and relax and, you know, take it down a notch, and their jobs are super serious, you know.
Mhm.
And so learn them, spend that time, learn, you know, you might have 4 border collies, but they are each individuals. And so take the time to learn what each one needs from you and how you can best provide that for them, you know, and so that they are better adjusted for it, you know, because if they have a question, if they're unsure of themselves, you know, and dogs do have questions, you know,
Mhm.
but when they're unsure of themselves, they need to know that you are that go-to person for them. And so, but you're not going to get that. They may love you, but do they trust you? Do they respect you? You know, and that's where like the discipline and things like that come in. And discipline doesn't have to be heavy handed or anything like that. It's just teaching them that yes, there are some boundaries,
Mhm.
but you know, there's also time to just have fun and just relax and just go dog. Like I do that. I have my dogs work, and then literally tell them go dog. You know,
Yeah.
just go do whatever it is. Just go chill. If you want to lay down, if you want to go sniff, you know, Gina, you mentioned it doesn't have to be like a scent work class, but that's a great class to do though, you know,
Mhm.
because that's one of those things that they need, you know, and they find that fun, and then they can just relax, you know, the tension is off. Ah, I can sit back and relax, you know. So
Yeah, that discipline, leadership, boundaries, however you want to talk about it too, there it is. It's not, animal relationships are just as complex as humans. I love Julia said a good thing to keep in mind is that we're always teaching them something, whether we want to be or
yep,
not. And I know that's so
absolutely.
true. Gina, what do you think is something the most important thing to keep in mind?
Well, I'm positive we've all taken the test of what our love language is. So
Yeah.
all of our dogs have that as well. And even though I'm a big quality time girl, you know, I don't know if that's what my dogs really what they want with that quality time. I think we all know they do want our time, maybe. So I'm just saying, I don't know how many dogs you all have or how many, what your life is even like. But one of the things I try really hard with multiple dog household is spending quality time with individuals so that they're still seeing me as part of this, their life. And it's not that I'm requiring them just like have fun with your pack, you know? So I try, even if it's for 5 minutes and you're just taking one of your dogs and finding out. And I think you'll know what they like, right? Because you're going to see if they're responding to you. So maybe some of them don't really want to cuddle, but they would love to go outside and search under leaves for varmints. Look, I don't know. You just have to look, what is it that they like? I find what they like, and I I somehow weasel my way. I had to say an otter thing, a weasel my way into, and I'm involved too. So I would say quality time, doing something they enjoy, not what you're asking them to do.
Right.
Get
Yeah.
to know your dog and find out, you know, like I did do some scent work with my dog, but she's kind of a little bit of a dud. Let's not bring that up. But she wasn't that interested, but yet I enjoyed it. I'm like, great. Another thing to do with my dog that she's like, this is what I'd rather do. I involve myself into that. And the only way, if you don't know my friends, if you don't know what your dog enjoys, then you've got to get to know them first. Then, you know what I mean? And that stinks to hear. Like, well, I've had my dog for 8 years. You know what your dog likes. Do that with them. Pay attention and spend the time, because I think that'll make you happy too. They need to see that. They need to see you relaxed and having fun, and then you're back to that bonding again.
Yeah.
But if they don't know, because you said, well, you do know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't, because we put our goals. I hear that often,
Yeah.
My goal for my dog is this, or,
Yeah.
I want her to have friends. Dogs don't need to have friends. They don't necessarily, that might not be what they want. And so we do that a lot. And so there are a lot of people who actually don't know what their dog really wants. And so that's first step,
Mhm.
hang out with them, find out what are their defaults,
Mhm.
with reactive training. When you see a dog or when you see your trigger, what is their default behavior? Do they
Mhm.
clamp lips? Do they lick? Do they look at you? Do they start to sniff? What is it?
Mhm.
We know what we ask them to do, but what would they do if left to their own devices? So
Mhm.
learning your dog, really.
Yeah. Getting rid of our assumptions too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Take you out of it.
Yeah, that's hard. I know it's hard, especially for everyone who's joining who really has that desire for therapy animal work.
Mhm.
I know we're about to wrap up on time, but I saw one other question come
Mhm.
through from Mary. Hi, Mary. We know Mary. And talking about non-canine pets. Mary has a therapy pig, and getting ready for therapy animal visits again. I think so much of what we've said, you can replace the word dog with any animal,
Yes.
because we are talking about learning their preferences, taking them slowly into new situations, and monitoring body language. Of course, the body language cues are going to be different by species. Any other quick notes from you two, though, on non-canine species and getting prepared to be back in the world?
It's that approximations again, and going back to step one. And all of you did the training in the beginning, and then they're very well trained, and then this kind of happened. We have to kind of go back to that if we can remember what we even did sometimes. But I would say with any of the animals that we work with, treating it almost like step one,
Yeah.
and always watching that body language and doing it for them. This is all about them. So if you're walking into a new space and it doesn't look comfortable, there's a point where you might want to push a little threshold, like, oh, we'll be fine, but you can really ruin a relationship and stress out an animal. So this is, again, how do you know? And I have a dog as well that will do whatever I ask, which I don't really like. I want her to tell me, like, wait, are you comfortable? Because I don't just do this for me. So I'd say for any animal, go back to step one, and I think it's okay to start baby steps again.
Yeah, I second that. I know little one grew up in this, in therapy world and stuff like that. And so just going right back to, where did we start? And you might realize that you can skip a few steps, that, you don't have to teach necessarily the absolute basics, because they're like, okay, I do know that part. But then, you might find that, oh, so here's a sticking point, this, and doesn't just reintroduce it like you did the first time, and yeah, just, I would go through like it was the first time again, basically.
Yep, that's great. Well, this has been awesome. I have a page of notes myself, as I always do when I have a conversation with these two ladies. And I hope everyone who's joined us has enjoyed this. If you have, please put a comment in thanking Caren and Gina for their time and for sharing their expertise. And we would love to have you both back soon, as we hopefully talk about a more normalized world soon. I'm going to keep hoping for it and keep putting it out there. So thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is really fun. I enjoyed this.
Awesome.
Mhm.
All right. Well,
Mhm.
everyone have a great evening and a wonderful holiday season, and we will
Yes.
be in touch soon.